Welcome to another Figuring Out Japan video, and in this video I'll be looking at the Imperial Flagship released in 2010. 1,664 pieces according to Brickset, over 750 pieces bigger than the next biggest Pirate series ship, which was the Skull's Eye Schooner. This set is massive, as you can see from the dimensions relative to the minifigures. A lot to cover in this video, so I'll jump straight into it. I'm going to race through things as quick as I can. So firstly, I love the sails that they've used here. Really nice white pattern. They've kind of shied away from the pattern that they've used in many of the vintage sets. But I think it looks great. Especially love this 3-sail one in the middle. Also love the flag at the top. It's actually a kind of plastic flag, and you can see it's actually cut out to size. Compared to the vintage ones that were just kind of this plastic square with the printed on it. Not that I ever had anything against those, but I think this one looks a little bit better. Wish we did get one more to put on the back of the ship. That would have been really cool. I just feel that this part looks just a little bit bare. It would have been nice to have one just kind of hanging around here. But there you go. We only get the one. And then of course we get these two on the side. Very old vintage piece. This one here, that particular piece, but it kind of works with the red coat soldiers. No crane or kind of pulley system. Most of the ships in the past have had that, but this one does not have that. I would have loved to have seen. I've always dreamt of a ship that actually had 2 ladders high, and I wish they actually did that on one of these masts. Have 2 of these high and then a crow's nest at the top. But they kind of did that with this little extra piece just to give it that extra height. One thing that's not great about the design is that these brown pieces here stick out. So if you actually place a minifigure on this little round table, it can't actually stand up straight, which is why he's looks like he's about to chuck from seasickness. So that's a little bit of a design flaw, but otherwise it's okay. At the front of the ship, I actually had a spare piece there, that's why that's there. And I think I added these gold studs here that are not meant to be there either. But I actually quite like the front of the ship. I really like these black pieces, the way they come around. I wasn't a big fan of the figurehead because we've had so many sharks over the years, but I guess they had to have something pretty big. It works, but I don't know, maybe a mermaid or something would have been a bit more interesting. These pieces here actually just sit in, so they're not kind of clipped into anything. And I'd say generally the whole front of the ship is not the most stable because you have these. Maybe if I should take him off. So this part here actually prevents this from falling, and it doesn't exactly do the best job of it because it's only attached by those 2 blue studs there at the end. So when you're building it, I actually knocked that a couple of times and it came off, but not such a big deal. The main deck of the ship here is 16 studs wide, which is normal for Lego ships, and you get these pretty cool loading bays, which actually go right to the bottom deck of the ship, so that's pretty cool. And some nice detail here. You've got the little gates around the side with the gold studs, these little cheese slope pieces here as well, and it's a bit hard to see because they're so dark, but you also get all these arches all the way along. I also love these kind of wrench pieces that hold the ladders. They almost look like birds actually, so I actually quite like them rather than just standard clips. I also really love this build here. I love the colors, love the design. I think it looks really fantastic. A lot of pieces used in there to create that effect. Looks very, very nice. Moving on to the main the cabin. These doors look fantastic. It's a bit hard to show, but they have this kind of black cross-hatched pattern on them, and they also have the lines and the sort of texture of wood. But one thing with them is they don't actually open all the way because they hit the that sort of structure in front of them. I don't know if I built something wrong, but I don't think I have, so whoops, sorry, I'm moving the camera in a lot. So yeah, but the doors look great. I also love the overall look of the cabin. It actually comes out 2 studs. Usually it goes in, but this ship they actually made it out, so the cabin is 20 studs wide. Love the arches here and the gold studs. Again, the black frame. The wood color is actually darker than usual as well for a lot of pieces in this set, so it makes it look like a much richer, classier looking look. I wasn't a fan of this railing, but now that I've actually built it, I actually quite like this. I think it actually looks good. And we have here, of course, the steering wheel with a telescope and a sextant on either side. The wheel is not connected to the rudder as we've seen in the past. It's probably a good thing because it takes up a lot of room on the inside of the structure. And this just lifts up, and that's the inside of it. So you can see some chest of drawers there. The map, they've actually changed. Fans of the vintage series will be very used to this piece, but they've actually changed the map to a more kind of Aztec look. Get a little ruby there. The chest also has the traditional gold coins, but also you do get another 4 rubies, a yellow, a green, a blue, and a red, and a little gold telescope as well. You also get an organ, which is a very strange thing to have on a ship, but just makes it look quite classy. It actually looks really accurate too. Interesting little build of that. As we now move to the back of the ship, I think the back of it looks fantastic. They've had some great backing of the cabins over the years, but I really love these blue front flames. They're really great effect. These actually do come out, but I don't really know why you'd want to do that, to be honest. Of course, all the windows open all the way around. Not a fan of these grey lids. I wish they did a black one. Just kept it black. But one cool little thing which you probably can't tell is there are 2 semi-transparent studs in there. The bottom one is orange, the top one is yellow, so they've just created that extra effect. I like the railing along here as well. Even the rudder actually looks quite nice, so overall looks good. No little boat though. Ships have always had, and I mean always had, a little rowboat. This one does not have a little rowboat to get to shore or whatever, so I just thought I'd mention that. Actually, before I forget as well, these masts, a lot of pieces used in here. Each one of these sticks is probably about 30 pieces with all the little brown, very tedious build, but it actually works very well because it allows the bottom sail and the top sail to be used on the same rod. So now let's have a look at the lower part of the ship, and this just literally just lifts off and is attached by those 4 studs that you see there. So very clever design. And then this one also comes off like so, and here we have the lower deck. So here is the anchor. As you can see, it's very nice that you can change the side if you want to very easily. The vintage ones you'd have to tie a string, and they were almost impossible to untie. The anchor does work. It's fairly short, but does the job. Sometimes it gets caught when you undo it, but it usually works pretty well. You get a little mouse and a bed, some handcuffs. So that's the dungeon, the jail, and yes, the door does open. A couple little cannon loaders that you get here. You get 4 cannons, which is standard for pirate ships or Lego ships. I'm not so fussed that you don't get enough for both sides, because I think having enough for one side is sufficient. But I do wish that these cannonball holders, which sit on these, what do you call them, jumpers or studs, whatever you want to call them, if you do have them all on one side like this, you've got the cannonballs on the wrong side. So I think at the very minimum they should have given you a couple more of those to have, and that way you could move these around if you wanted to, or if they were really generous, just give you 2 more of these crates. So even though you don't have enough cannons to have everything, you do have enough cannonballs. Also interesting to note, each of those crates has 5 cannonballs, so you get 10 in total. Usually they've given you 6 cannonballs per cannon. It's almost been Lego ship lore. So they were a little bit tight on that. But I really love the cannons. You can see here a comparison between the old and the new. Just looks so much nicer, this metallic grey. I really love it. Looks fantastic. And then at the back here we have the kitchen. So some nice flames going there with the cups. Nice little effect. And then here you can see a little table with a carrot, a gold cup, and some pots and pans on the wall with a couple of knives, and even a rotisserie. And the drumsticks even are angled. The pins in those are angled to sort of make it converge. Really cool. And you do get a couple of flames in there as well. So really nice detail. Let's now have a look at the minifigs. So this is the kind of standard Imperial Soldier minifig, and I actually think they look good. Not crazy about the backs though. They almost look like mailmen to me. But there's a comparison to the vintage. So you can see in particular the nice pattern on the top of the hat, but otherwise not vastly different. These ones of course actually had physical backpacks, and there's a few different types of those guys. I don't think soldiers back in the day would have had, I don't think soldiers are allowed to have facial hair, but I guess if they didn't, they would all look the same. So I really like how they've given you that that variation. And I think they're all different because, as I said, I have 2 extras, so those 2 are duplicates. So yeah, so you get 4 different soldiers, all with different faces. That's pretty cool. And then you get a sergeant, and that's his comparison to the vintage. And then you get a governor who looks pretty good. Strange though that he's in a blue coat, because it's a red coat ship, so I guess the only reason they did that was to make him stand out more from the rest of the soldiers. Not much printing on the back. I wish they did some pattern on the hat as well, like they did in the vintage ones. I think those hats look really classy. But otherwise I think he looks pretty good. And you do get a governor's daughter. I don't know the story or the meaning behind the governor's daughter. It kind of seems to fit, but I don't know whether what the sort of background behind all that is. Now she does have a double-sided face, and I think overall the printing on that piece is really nice. And then you do get, of course, Captain Roger. Fun fact, this is the only, there aren't too many sets that you get both the soldier and the pirate captain. The only other ones were the Eldorado Fortress and the Trading Post set back in the vintage 1989 and 1992. And you can see the differences in those. Not much printing on the back. Not a huge fan of that cross, that Jolly Roger. Almost looks like an alien, but overall I think he looks good. I love the handcuff accessory as well. I think that's great. So I'll wrap it up here. I think overall I really like this set. I mean, the size of it is just amazing. It visually looks fantastic. Of course, there's a couple of things that, you know, maybe I thought could have been done differently, but you're always going to have that with the set. I think overall this set is fantastic. It was only released, what, 6 years ago already. A very, very expensive, very collectible set. So clearly the LEGO community values the build in this. I think the scope of this build with LEGO, they said, hey, let's not worry about cost, let's not worry about pieces, let's just make the biggest, most awesome ship that we can do. And I think, you know, they've pretty much done this. It's an amazing set, and if it's ever beaten one day, it would definitely be something amazing. But this really is a spectacular thing to add to your collection. Interested in your thoughts of this set? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.